There's a term currently thrown around in literature and writing circles: lived experiences. On the face value, there is nothing wrong with this term. After all, what we experience in life matters. From the day we are conceived to the day we die, we endure challenges and victories. Initially, the existential writers such as Albert Camus and Dostoevsky aimed to depict both the banality and richness of our existence. That's why novels such as The Plague and Notes from the Underground are considered classics to this day. Existentialism, specifically phenomenological approaches, can help us understand what it means to be a human being. Despite any philosophical, theological, or political differences the reader may have with the author, the original existential novels brought people together. Fast forward to the 21st century, existentialism has not gone away, but has evolved. Filmmakers from Lars von Trier to Terrence Malick create films that, although divisive, offer the viewer a deep reflection into the human soul. However, as the century unfolds, something goes wrong. Viewers and readers question not only the merits of art, but the function of it. Perspectives from third-wave feminists, postmodernists, revolutionaries and communists come in, highlighting supposed oppression within the art world. As we make way into the 2010s, new phrases enter our lexicon, such as, "This movie is problematic due to racism," "This young adult book has poor representation." As Western culture becomes more divided on political grounds, a new job was created, that of the dreaded sensitivity reader. Common in young adult fiction, the sensitivity reader combs through a manuscript and picks up problematic phrasing and characterization. Of course, to be a sensitivity reader, you must belong to a certain race, gender, or sexuality. These readers thrive off the presumption, and make money, that some people, no matter how much research they do or whatever empathy they display, will never fully understand their fellow humans because they are of a different race, sexuality, or gender. As the sadly successful movement #OwnVoices tells us, belonging to a certain sexuality or race gives you the permission to tell particular stories. Fiction is no longer a thrilling minefield of opportunity. It is a gated community that you need permission to enter. Authors are told they need to shut up and listen or educate themselves about the lived experiences of certain races. Novels such as American Dirt are deemed racist purely because the author didn't ask for the mob's permission to write. Considering that publishing is an incredibly risk-averse industry, authors are now getting the message that they can't talk about certain subjects or feature characters of different races. Here are two questions. How can writers be rebellious and rule-breaking when they must seek permission? How can writers change the world when they are afraid of their publishers? Literature is meant to be life-changing, evolving, and shatter expectations people have. I doubt it can do that through a sensitivity reader. Near the end of the decade, stories come out of racism in the Anglosphere publishing industry. You must be a certain race to write about said race, as if your skin colour has a correlation with literary merit. One troubling story is that of Kate Elisa, who was groomed by a gang of Pakistani Muslim men in England. She wrote a memoir, calling her experiences of being raped as racism. The editor of the Penguin imprint wasn't happy, citing that white people cannot experience racism, and thus she had to change her manuscript. This dogma against the human condition is prevalent and will only grow if people do not speak up. Keyword: experience. Lived experiences in the early hours of existentialism was a term that helped us understand our fellow human beings and the stories they had to tell. Not only that, but the best existential literature realizes our empathy. I may not live in the chilly outskirts of St. Petersburg, Russia, as a retired civil servant, but I know what it's like to be alone, or to be bitter, angry, afraid, and isolated. Reading notes from the underground while I live in Sydney, Australia in the 21st century is an extraordinary experience. Seriously, read Dostoevsky, you won't regret it. Of course, when we suffer, we feel like no one else would understand. But the truth that existential literature reveals is that our fellow human beings do understand our suffering, but most of the times are powerless to stop it. Thus, the great French and Russian novelists saw pain as part of life and studied it deeply. Whilst race, gender, class, and sexuality may determine some factors of one's story, they are not the only things that matter. What matters is the individual and his personal choices, his interests and desires, his beliefs, convictions, opinions, and most importantly, how he constructs himself and what meaning he inherits from life. Existential literature may discuss the universal misery of humanity. However, it also recognizes the individual. Even though we exist in a spiderweb of connectivity, we are still masters of ourselves. I'm a white, straight, middle-class female that lives in Australia, as are a lot of my cousins and friends, but we are still different from each other. I do not spend time with my sister because we are of the same race or gender. No, I devote time to my family because I value and cherish them. There is no power dynamic or forced social contracts tainting the relationship between myself and my family. The life of the human being is far richer and more complex than someone's skin colour or who they like to kiss. The critical theorists and postmodernists seem to have no understanding of anything outside the context of a power dynamic. The current mode of lived experiences is a simplistic and childish way of looking at humans. Sure, your life experience matters, but to code it purely in terms of race or gender is destructive. It is foolish to pretend that only a portion of the population knows what a certain experience is like. If anything, I'd argue that this practice is against the principles of existentialist literature. Not only that, but when we pretend that certain groups have a monopoly on suffering, we end up producing more pain and hurt. I am not saying that there isn't racism or sexism. What I am saying is that it's not the only thing that happens in our world. Many other things matter. Literature must have an imagination of its own. We are in a sorry state of literature where movies, books, video games, or TV shows do not bring people together. The literary canon finds common ground throughout humanity and makes us feel less alone. However, the classics that we cherish are so often deconstructed and torn apart by literary critics and academics. The way society interacts with literature in the 21st century is painfully cynical. Our contemporary fiction and the publishing industry fails to acknowledge the depth of human experiences. Instead, we are in an experiment of social engineering. The wealthy and influential publishers and executives act as our moral guardians, telling us what media we should enjoy. This is not the behaviour of a friend, but of someone who thinks that they are better than you. And thus, the reader feels alone and alienated, like the Russian narrator nested under snow. Sure, we all have our own lived experiences, but there is more to life and literature than what we see and feel. You can say that we need an intellectual revolution of sorts, where we seek out human experiences, form bonds with people who are different than us, and think critically about dogma and beliefs that we're expected to have. Until then, literature will continue to have a stale mindset. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you like this content. Thank you.